Sometimes it's possible. You know, that I actually think that that is a good sign of a true competitor. The player who wins and is still like, "Ah, it's not the way I wanted to win."
We
That
saw a
didn't
nice,
feel good.
we saw a nice Roach Hydra combination right there.
Haven't seen that in a while.
It worked good. I was a little worried in that last battle, actually, for IdrA. When he was attacking the expansion, he had like sort of split his army off a little bit. The roaches
Uh-huh.
ended up in the backside.
Ooh, yeah,
It
it
was
was.
kind of scary thinking all those colossi were just.
Mhm, mhm. So it looks like IdrA is just going to be getting invited to this game. I need him to relog because for some reason it is not letting me invite him.
Okay, he'll relog and we'll get this game 2 started here in just a moment. Thanks for joining us here. If you don't know what's going on, well, thanks for stumbling onto our humble little production. This is the EG Masters Cup Series, StarCraft 2 edition, and right now 2 of the best players from North America, undoubtedly, EG IdrA and Liquid Huck, battling it out because Liquid Huck won the competition and now is trying to defeat IdrA to win the MSI Notebook right here, the GT 660. And so exciting, thing to play for. These guys play for money. Huck already won $1,000. Also getting the opportunity to basically have his mobile StarCraft 2 game station. So I'm DJ Wheat, and joining me as always, this guy right here.
Hello, I'm Day9.
And
we are going directly into Game 3 right now. They are playing for this MSI GT 660 laptop. The map that Huck has chosen is going to be Steps of War. He's consistently shown he has a good way to both be aggressive and continue to transition.
I'm actually really excited for this one.
Drop in the stream.
Wait.
It looks like Day9, a.k.a. me, decided to drop the game. So, well, I would just request that we change the camera back to us so I can relog on without publicly displaying my email, a talent I am known to have. So
that was actually pretty crazy.
All right.
I mean, literally, I don't know what happened. Awesomeness just like...
Yeah, I know. The servers got clogged with how many people are trying to log in here at the same time. But either way, I am rehosting on Steps of War, which is, of course, Huck's choice of map.
Steps of War, close positions, been around since the beta. A lot of strategies developing on this one. One of my favorite early strategies that we saw was the pylon behind the destructible rocks for the Protoss to warp in those units not only on that low ground there, but right in front of the rocks and go for those quick pushes. Obviously, things have changed a lot since then, but really see some cool play on this one. But for Zerg, it's kind of weird being as small as it is.
Yes, very, very tense, but always there is the counterattack advantage, which I think is the big strength Zergs have. I think everyone is aware that Zerg wants to stay alive as long as possible. Or, excuse me, Zerg wants to have, obviously, Zerg wants to have as big a distance as possible. There we go. So that way Zerg can see it coming, respond, defend, defend,
so
defend.
So they can stay alive as long
But most of the time, yes, thank you very much. Very good, Protege Wheat. The real danger is when on close positions, if a player does a huge attack and then botches, and the Zerg immediately swarms back into his face. We see Slush beat Kiwikaki. In fact, in almost every game that they played in that series, very, very tense for both players. But again, that's the way they live life. We are going into Game 3 between Huck and IdrA here at the EG Masters Cup Notebook Final, sponsored by MSI. IdrA in the top right, just taking his first win in the last game, and Huck in the bottom left as the sad, frowny blue Protoss.
Yes, of course, tied 1 game apiece, and if you haven't already, Dave, make sure to set yourself to busy, because I know when we
totally
get resets, oh, you're the bomb.
As a hermit, as one of my utmost skills.
Of course, you got blue Huck Protoss down in the southwest position, and we already saw where IdrA was. So on this map, it is like a hop, skip, and a jump right to your opponent's expansion, making that now, oh, totally Zerg safe 15 hatch, not really that way. What are your thoughts? What kind of insight can you give us here, Dave, for all those aspiring players out there?
Weirdly enough, I think that most Zergs aren't going to mind as much about the proximity as they would, I would say, earlier on. Nowadays, Zergs are almost always getting that pool pretty quickly against Protoss because the threat of being cannon rushed is so high. So in these spots, you get your forge up. The real thing, your pool up. The real thing you're worried about is after you get your pool up, getting blocked really hard. Huck continuing to just be aggressive. He's now going to return back to the expansion, block it at the good time while he throws down his gateway.
And that's exactly what we saw Huck do versus Machine here on Steps of War. Machine tried to basically counter it or answer to it by Nidusing into his third and also trying to expand over there. Was a pretty rough game. I'm curious to see if Huck is going to try to assert the same level of aggression that he did versus Machine. Obviously knowing that IdrA has dealt with a lot of the cheese because of what you talk about too, and practicing a lot of those strategies over and over. Might not be perfect for where it's at, but
you know, I think the one thing that we're already seeing is a big switch that IdrA's doing is getting this gas in a very planned, fast fashion. He threw his pool down, and then very shortly thereafter threw down his gas, which I really think that if Huck did some sort of crazy +1 fast 4-gate push, he could possibly kill it outright, but I don't know if Huck's willing to do that sort of crazy all-in. Ooh, IdrA getting a very fast Roach Warren. We've seen Zergs do this before. Slush did it after a 10 pool, IdrA doing it on a 14 pool. Let's see if the economic one's better or if the speedy one's better.
It also is not scouted by Huck on his exit of the base, highlighting him and looking over at the vision. He only sees that pool, so Huck going to head on back, and Overlord is going to get a good idea what's going on there. Sees the cybernetic core going to drop as well. Firstlings are out, and I assume with the fast gas, well, no, not necessarily a good assumption. It's specifically for the roaches.
Yeah, roaches do take quite a good bit of gas because you can't really get gas very quickly off of one geyser. So players will end up stockpiling that gas early on. We see one roach building for IdrA. Let's see if he throws down any more. Uh-oh, Huck, he could swing around the backside, but there's a queen right in the way. There's one hit. Oh, does get taken down. And I think that, really honestly, Huck's going to be getting very suspicious at this point. He's only seen 2 lings. Queen was blocking at the front. He's probably going to assume either banelings or roaches. And as we see 6 roaches coming, IdrA is going to have a very, very thin timing window to win with this attack.
And really to just take appreciation to how much detail IdrA is putting into this build specifically. He had the drones mining right there, went to exactly like 136 or whatever, a little bit over, and then had enough just for those 5-6 roaches to come out. Went back to minerals and is just now starting to put back on gas. So just like the thought of being that meticulous really just goes to show how much he's probably practiced this one particular build.
Now if we go to the Huck cam, we'll see exactly where his focus is. He does have 2 sentries. Here comes the roaches up the ramp.
Oh.
And wow, very nice timing. So that one force field is going to be the key that might help keep Huck alive for a little while longer. Looks like, IdrA now advancing up. Now this could potentially be hazardous for IdrA, as that does look like it's going to be a free roach kill. Huck throwing down force fields very far down the ramp as to not give any extra vision.
Yeah, and IdrA also trying to bring this Overlord up from just north of the position that they're in. In the meantime, there are actually no additional units coming out here, and speed is being researched as well. The Overlord, I kind of assumed, like, maybe try to give vision at this point. Is there any reason why he wouldn't want to be trying to do that?
Well, I suppose he knows that Huck is getting a good amount of just general units, general zealots, sentries, stalkers. If he does try to be too crazy and too aggressive with these slow roaches, he could get himself killed. Look at how slow these roaches are off creep without that speed upgrade. Roach is one of the few units that has like 10 different speeds. There's without speed, on creep, with speed, without creep, etc., etc., etc. So, of course, in the slowest of situations, want to run home.
And when everything is said and done in the opening 7.5 minutes of this game, IdrA just protects himself early on, sets himself up with some nice defense here, has a spine crawler down now as well. Over in Huck's base, he continues to just get those units ready. Some more sentries being added. He's decided to stick, of course, with the 3 stalkers, and he does have immortals coming out as well.
Now, I think what Huck is realizing is that his opponent just went for some very fancy roach into expo play. He was low on larva, so of course IdrA going to respond by building a bunch of spine crawlers. And in particular, the only thing IdrA really can do against this big push that's coming is a whole bunch of Zerglings. So Huck is going to actually wait an unusually long time. He's going to wait for +1, wait till he has 2 Immortals, and then try to do one very large, big all-in attack. And that should be enough to swamp over your average Zerg, but IdrA is, of course, one of the best in the world, so we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, very reactionary too, always keeping that sort of perfect amount of units out there just to skirt by, and then delivering the units when he really needs to. Now taking another gas here at his expansion as well. Over, we do see, we start to see the moving and the shaking happening here by Huck. He's going to leave this one Immortal behind to catch up with the whole army, and he does have +1. It has finished. So Observer coming out, he's going to push forward, get whacked a couple times here by, wow, he's going to go in for the push right away.
Wow, and then immediately throwing down Guardian Shields, trying to advance forward. He does want to pick off those Spine Crawlers, trying to keep the Roaches as far in the back as he can. 2 Immortals up at the front lines, more and more Zerglings being produced. All the Zealots are dead. He desperately needs to get more Zealots in there, but now he is in a full-out retreat. IdrA is just screaming units outside the front of this base, and poor Huck, his timing window is lost. He needs to get more Zealots onto the front field to reinforce. As we can see, IdrA has plenty of Zerglings, and the 3 Spine Crawlers were just enough.
And Roach speed is going down right now for IdrA to help out in those battles as well. He's going to move forward these Spine Crawlers. Really curious to know if he's going to remake any of those, or if he was satisfied with the killing that he did there. We do have more Immortals coming out to continue to pad that army, and the rocks have been broken here, setting IdrA up for a third base. The Observer is going to peek in there. Notice it's not up yet, but I gotta guess that's one of the things that IdRA's always got on the back of his mind.
Absolutely. IdrA has some very smart Overlord positioning. I mean, this is a seemingly random location for an Overlord, but he can see these rocks. This other Overlord can see this expansion, so IdrA has a good sense of where Huck is at, and most importantly, he can always suicide this Overlord in if he needs to, or even just wait for speed.
And of course, doing that, you know, in the middle of the game, just to like get an idea of what your opponent is doing, see any tech switches, what might be coming out, size of the army, composition, etc. A lot of guys will argue that it's okay to sack those OBs in order to get that info. The army of Huck continues to grow over here in IdrA's base. They are going to get one Zergling who's going out. We got IdrA kind of moving forward here, off of the creep, almost away. Thoughts on that, Dave?
Well, it looks like he's positioning himself, again, a very strong tactic. Almost always is just to move your army forward and then move your army back. In that forward movement, your opponent is very likely to overreact, build a little bit too much. But of course, it looks like Huck is almost committed to making units for both defense and offense. So we see the double gas going down right now. More sentries, more zealots, and Huck is actually looking pretty limited in the number of options that he has. He lost so many zealots with that first push, and wow, IdrA is very responsible about observer sniping.
We also have the Hydralisk Den about ready to complete here for IdrA, so possibly another big macro game combination, safe to play and win. You know, curious to see. You talk a lot about Huck's Colossus and how that would come into play. It looks like we might have a push here. Roaches are going to come out and attack.
And the Zerglings do run into the Zealots. That's not where IdrA wanted to be. Some decent force fields, but more and more Roaches swinging around the top side. The Immortals all managed to stay alive, but look at that production tab for IdrA. Huge amounts of Zerglings being produced, and I think IdrA may have mistimed this attack a little bit, but no, it doesn't even matter. His macro is outrageous, just surrounding everything with Roaches and Lings, and now Huck is scrambling to find the defense, but IdrA's macro is just too good again.
Yeah, already Chrono Boost there on the gateway. IdrA moves forward with the Roaches and the Lings. We got more sentries being warped in here, and Huck is going to GG.
Again, that early push that Huck did keeps throwing away just a few too many Zerglings, and IdrA seems to be so vulnerable until the last second and always manages to stay alive.
We talk over and over again about that. That is just one of those things that I think can truly make you a great player. You know, I've got to make those extra spine crawlers and waste those
yeah.
100, those drones and stuff. But just being so good at your unit control, what your money's going to do, where you're at with your economy, it's just so amazing to me to see. Like, you just look at that and you almost just misread it. Like, how can any human hold this off? Like, it's crazy. And these guys do. It just is one of the things that makes them truly amazing from both of them. Congratulations.
Now, IdrA is up 2